Hey there. Ready for another deep dive? You've got some really interesting notes this time on the Renaissance, so let's jump right in.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating period.
It really is.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this question in your notes. Why Italy? What made it the birthplace of the Renaissance? Seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, it's key. See, the word Renaissance itself means rebirth.
Hmm.
It's all about rediscovering the art and ideas of ancient Greece and Rome. After centuries, it was like someone hit the reset button and said, hey, remember those ancient Greeks and Romans? They were onto something.
Like those incredible Roman ruins you can still see all over Italy today, right?
Exactly. They weren't just old buildings. They were like these grand reminders of a glorious past,
Hmm.
a golden age. And for the Italians of the Renaissance, they were a huge inspiration.
It's like having history right in your backyard. You can't escape it.
Right. And then there's the Italian language itself. Did you know it's derived from Latin?
Oh, the language of ancient Rome.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Imagine being able to read those ancient Roman texts without needing like a dictionary for every other word.
No Google Translate needed.
Right. It was like
Yeah.
this incredible unlock, gave them direct access to all that classical knowledge, literature, philosophy, science. It was all right there, ready to spark new ideas.
It's like finding your great-great-grandmother's diary and realizing, wait, I can actually read this.
Exactly. But of course, you can't have a Renaissance without a little bit of money, right?
Right. Those magnificent paintings and sculptures don't just pay for themselves.
Exactly. That's where patrons come in. Wealthy individuals and families willing to invest in art and knowledge.
And that brings us to the Medicis. From what I understand, they weren't just bankers. They were like Renaissance royalty.
More like the Renaissance's executive producers. Take Lorenzo de' Medici, Lorenzo the Magnificent. He was a poet, a politician, and a huge patron of the arts. Michelangelo, Botticelli, he supported them both.
And Michelangelo, I mean, this is the guy who gave us David, the Sistine Chapel ceiling. My neck hurts just thinking about painting all that.
It's remarkable, isn't it? And to think, Lorenzo de' Medici saw his potential early on, gave him access to the best training, the best materials.
It's the ultimate apprenticeship. No wonder Michelangelo became a legend.
Right. And it wasn't just Michelangelo. You mentioned Botticelli earlier. His Birth of Venus is a perfect example of what the Renaissance was all about.
That rediscovery of classical beauty, the human form,
Yeah.
it's all there.
Exactly. And none of it would have been possible without patrons like Lorenzo de' Medici. He had a vision. He wasn't just a businessman. He understood the power of art and knowledge.
And he wasn't afraid to use his wealth to share it, right? Like you mentioned in your notes that the Medicis established the first public library in Europe.
They did. It was radical for the time. Making knowledge accessible to everyone. That was a big deal.
Knowledge is power, after all.
Exactly. They understood that. They wanted Florence to be a center of knowledge and culture.
Yeah.
And they weren't shy about making it happen.
Public libraries. Talk about a game changer. Okay, but back to Michelangelo for a sec. This guy was seriously talented. Sculpting, painting, architecture. Was there anything he couldn't do?
He really embodies that Renaissance man ideal. A true master of multiple disciplines. I mean, this is the artist who gave us the Pieta, David,
Yeah.
A&D, the Sistine Chapel ceiling.
4 years on his
Yeah.
back, painting all those incredible details. The man had dedication. But the Italian Renaissance wasn't the whole story, right? Your notes mention some other names. What about those northern artists?
Right. As the Renaissance spread north, it took on its own unique character.
Yeah.
You mentioned Albrecht Dürer in your notes.
Oh, right. Dürer, a master engraver, painter, and a keen observer of nature, from what I understand.
Absolutely. His engravings are incredible.
Yeah.
So detailed. You can see his skill in every line.
The Night, Death, and the Devil. That one always sticks with me.
It's a powerful image.
It is. And those self-portraits. It's like he's looking right at you through the centuries.
It's remarkable, the connection you feel.
Definitely. So we've got these larger-than-life figures, Michelangelo, Dürer, but the Renaissance was more than just art, right? I mean, you've got Shakespeare in your notes. What made his writing so impactful?
Oh, Shakespeare. He's in a league of his own. He captured the full range of human emotion in his plays. Love, joy, jealousy, ambition, despair.
Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, A Midsummer Night's Dream. They're still so relevant even after all these centuries.
He just understood human nature. You know, his characters feel real,
Right.
relatable, even when their lives are full of drama.
Right. You feel for them even when they're making terrible decisions.
Exactly. He gave us these iconic characters, unforgettable dialogue, and a whole new way of thinking about storytelling.
It's like he took what was in people's hearts and put it on stage.
Exactly. And speaking of mysteries of the heart, you mentioned the Dark Lady sonnets in your notes. Any theories on who she might have been?
Oh, yeah. It's one of literature's great unsolved mysteries.
Right. A real person, a figment of his imagination. Well, probably never know for sure.
A true Renaissance mystery. Okay, but shifting gears a bit here, you also mention a little invention that changed the world, the printing press.
Oh, Gutenberg's printing press was a game changer, no doubt.
Imagine a world where books were rare and expensive. Only the elite had access to them.
Right, but then Gutenberg comes along and boom, suddenly you can mass produce books.
Knowledge for everyone. It's like going from handwritten scrolls to, I don't know, the internet almost.
It was a revolution. And like any good revolution, it happened during a time ripe for change.
Because this was also around the time of the Reformation, right?
Exactly. People were questioning traditional authority, especially religious authority. And the printing press, it gave them a voice. It let them spread their ideas like never before.
It's amazing how one invention can have such a ripple effect. It's like we can trace so much of our modern world back to this time. And it wasn't just art and literature either. You've got a whole section in your notes about scientific advancement.
Absolutely.
Huh.
The Renaissance was a time when people started looking at the world in a whole new way.
Like questioning everything.
Exactly. Take Nicholas Copernicus, for example.
Mm.
His heliocentric theory completely changed our understanding of the universe.
Wait, so before Copernicus, people thought the Earth was the center of everything.
That's right, the geocentric model. It was the prevailing belief for centuries.
Wow. Okay, and Copernicus, he's the one who figured out that no, it's the sun at the center.
Exactly. The Earth revolves around the sun. It seems so obvious now, but back then, it was revolutionary.
It's like, I don't even know what led him to that conclusion.
Well, he wasn't satisfied with the old explanations. They were too messy, too complicated. He knew there had to be a simpler, more elegant solution.
And that's how he landed on the heliocentric model.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Through years of observation and calculation.
Challenging the status quo.
Speaking of challenging the status quo, you've also got Galileo highlighted in your notes. What made his work so controversial?
Well, Galileo, he built on Copernicus's work. He made these amazing telescopes, powerful enough to see the heavens in a whole new light.
Literally?
Right. And what did he see? The moons of Jupiter, the phases of Venus, even sunspots.
Sunspots.
Yeah. And all of it pointed to one thing. Copernicus was right. The Earth revolves around the sun. But that didn't go over so well with the church, did it? I mean, they were kind of invested in the whole Earth-centered universe idea.
Yeah, let's just say Galileo's discoveries weren't exactly met with open arms. Challenging the church's authority back then. Risky business.
Especially when your discoveries seem to contradict the Bible itself.
Exactly. It was a whole different time.
Okay.
Galileo ended up on trial, spent the rest of his life under house arrest.
Wow, it really shows how science and religion were on a collision course during the Renaissance. But hey, speaking of challenging old beliefs, you've also got William Harvey in your notes. He basically rewrote the book on how our bodies work, right?
Oh, absolutely. Before Harvey, everyone thought the liver was responsible for pumping blood throughout the body.
The liver.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Talk about an overachieving organ. So Harvey, he comes along and says, nope, it's all about the heart.
Exactly. Harvey, he was a meticulous observer, did tons of dissections, experiments. He was able to actually trace the flow of blood.
So there was no denying it. The heart was the true hero all along.
Exactly. Another example of those Renaissance thinkers, looking at the world with fresh eyes, not just accepting what they'd always been told.
Questioning everything.
Exactly. And speaking of questioning everything, we can't forget about Andreas Vesalius. He was dissecting human bodies, mapping out human anatomy in a way that had never been done before.
Now that's what I call pushing boundaries. All those discoveries, they really laid the groundwork for modern medicine, didn't they?
Absolutely. It's amazing to think how far we've come since then. But, we can't talk about the Renaissance without mentioning the architecture. I mean, those buildings are incredible.
They're iconic. Those soaring domes, elegant columns. What was it about ancient Roman architecture that so captured the Renaissance imagination?
It was more than just aesthetics. It represented something deeper. Order, harmony, balance. After centuries of what they saw as, well, let's just say less than inspired architecture, the Renaissance was all about recapturing that classical ideal.
It's like they're saying, we're back, baby, and we're bringing back style.
Exactly. And one of the best examples of that is Brunelleschi's dome on the Florence Cathedral. Have you ever seen it in person?
I wish, but I've seen pictures. It's breathtaking. How did they even build something like that back then?
It's a marvel of engineering. A dome that size, no internal supports. Brunelleschi, He was a genius.
A true visionary. And then you've got Andrea Palladio and his Palladian style. What made his billeting so unique?
Palladio, he was all about proportion, harmony, this beautiful sense of balance between the building and its surroundings. His designs were elegant, timeless.
They still inspire architects today.
They do. And you know, that's the thing about the Renaissance, isn't it? It's still with us. In our art, our architecture, our science, even the way we see the world.
It's like this incredible ripple effect reaching across the centuries. So I have to ask, if you could travel back in time to the Renaissance, what would you be most excited to see?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Would it be Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel? Or maybe a Shakespeare play at the Globe Theater? There's so much to choose from.
It's like a choose-your-own adventure through history.
It really is. But honestly, I think what fascinates me most is the spirit of the Renaissance itself. That insatiable curiosity, that drive to explore, to question, to create. It's inspiring.
And it's a good reminder that we're all capable of that kind of curiosity and creativity, no matter what era we live in.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. A huge thank you to you, our expert, for taking us on this incredible journey through the Renaissance.
My pleasure.
And to you, our listener, thanks for providing such great notes. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive as much as we have. Until next time, keep exploring and never lose that Renaissance spirit.